Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Jackson, and in this video, we're going to talk about how do you find the equation of a line from a graph. So first, we're going to figure out what is the y-intercept. We're going to calculate the slope, and then we're going to plug in both of those numbers into slope-intercept form to give us our equation of a line. So without further ado, let's get into the lesson.
Sorry, baby, I just don't know the words or how to conjugate them. Was it really past tense? I heard, or was it present perfect? Maybe we could forget.
Now, for finding the equation of a line, the very first thing you want to figure out is where does your line cross the y-axis? And that's going to be known as the y-intercept. And we always use the variable b for the y-intercept. So let's take a look at our first one here. Where does this line run directly through the y-axis? And if you're not sure which one the y-axis is, it's always the line that is going vertical or up and down. Most of the time it's labeled with a y here, but if not, you have to remember it's the one that is vertical or up and down. And I noticed that it is crossing right at this point right here. And you need to be careful. A lot of students mess this up. You need to make sure you are checking to see how much is your coordinate plane counting by. Sometimes it's by ones, twos, threes, fives. So a lot of the time my students just assume it's a one that it's counting by. This one's going up by twos. So it is crossing at 2. So we're going to say that our b, or our y-intercept, is positive 2. So that's the first part always when you're finding the equation of a line, seeing where it crosses the y-axis. So let's go ahead and get rid of that arrow and that point. And now we need to calculate the slope, and we use the variable m for that. And slope is just how steep is your line. There's two different methods I'm going to show you how to find the steepness of the line. The first one being the rise over run method, and the other one being slope formula. Regardless of which one you pick, you should get the same final answer back if you did it properly. So you need to pick 2 points that you easily know both coordinates to. So I am going to pick this one here because I know the exact coordinates of it are going to be -8, -4. So I'm going to write that down here, -8, -4. And then let's pick another point, which looks like this one runs perfectly through 2 coordinates that I know, is 8, 8. Now let's utilize the rise over run method to start, or the counting method. We need to figure out how do you go from one point to the other point, and we're first going to figure out what is our vertical change or a rise, up or down. So how do I go from the first point to the second point? We are going to rise 2 units, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So our rise is going to be positive 12 because we're going in the upwards direction. If we were going downwards, that would be a negative 12. And notice how I stopped perfectly where I'm going to end up meeting with my other point. We just have to now move horizontally to get there, which is known as our run, or a horizontal change. So we need to run to the right 2 units, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And this one is also going to be positive because we're moving in the positive direction on the x-axis. If we were going to the left, this would be a negative run. So now with our rise over run, we can put m equals, or slope equals, our rise was 12 units and our run was 16 units. And then the only thing we need to check to see is, can you simplify this? Well, 12 and 16 are both divisible by 4, so m equals 12 divided by 4 is 3, 16 divided by 4 is going to give us 4, and our slope or steepness of this line is 3/4. Now we're going to calculate slope again, but utilizing the slope formula, and you need your order pairs, which is why I jotted them down earlier. We need to take -8, -4, and we are going to label these as x1, y1. So I'm going to do x1, that was my first x coordinate that I picked, and then this is y1. And for 8, 8, this is going to be x2 now, and the other 8 is going to be y2. It doesn't matter which one is x1, y1. I could have made the order pair 8, 8, x1, y1, and -8, -4, x2, y2. The only thing you don't want to do is put x1 with y2, because then you're not going to get 3/4 back like we should. Now that they're labeled, let's plug it into our slope formula, which I wrote right here in case you don't know. It's slope equals y2 minus y1 is your vertical change, or what our rise was. So that's going to be 8 minus -4, so 8 minus -4, all over our horizontal change, or our run, which was 8 minus -8. So that's 8 minus -8. Now let's go ahead and do the subtraction here. 8 minus a -4. So if you're subtracting a negative, that actually turns to addition. So this is going to turn to 8 plus 4. And same thing actually happens in the denominator. this will also turn to addition because you're subtracting a negative. And you're going to end up getting for this 8 plus 4, you get 12. 8 plus 8, you get 16. And notice how you're going to end up getting the same exact answer as we did for rise over run when you simplify this, which is going to be 3/4. So m equals 3/4. Now, the only thing that's left, now that you have the slope and the y-intercept, you need to plug those values into slope-intercept form. Then you get your equation of the line. And the equation of the line is going to be in slope-intercept form here. Y equals mx plus b. So we have y equals our slope or steepness, in this case m, was 3/4, x, and then b was a positive 2, so we just tack on a plus 2 at the end, and our equation of the line for the first one, y equals 3/4 x plus 2. Now let's take a look at another example, but then we're going to have a negative slope for this one. Now for this one, we're going to have a negative slope. If you look at this line from left to right, you should see that this line is definitely declining. So when we get this slope, we better make sure that we get a negative slope final answer or we did something wrong. But once again, we start off with the same first step. Let's find the y-intercept, or where it crosses the y-axis. And I see that it is crossing the y-axis right here at the origin, which is 0, 0. So b in this case, again, b is for our y-intercept. B is equal to 0. Now let's find our slope, or m, or our steepness of our line, picking 2 points. So let's actually go ahead and utilize our origin for that. That's a good point. We know both values already. So that's going to be 0, 0. And then let's pick another point that we easily know the coordinates to. And I see this one down here. So let's do 4, -10. Now let's use rise over run. So how do I go from one point to the other point? So it looks like for our vertical change, we're going down 2 this time. Down 4, down 6, down 8, down 10, making this a -10 vertical change because you're going downwards on the y-axis. Now let's do our run. So we're running 2 to the right, 4 to the right in the positive direction. So that's going to be a positive 4. So we have m equals, our rise or vertical change was -10 all over a positive 4. 10 and 4 are both divisible by 2. So we get m equals -5/2 for rise over run. Now let's do the same thing with slope formula. We'll label these x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll make 0, 0, x1, y1, and we'll do x2, y2 here. Let's plug it into slope formula. M equals y2 was -10 minus y1 is 0. All over x2 is 4 minus x1, which is 0. So we get m equals -10 minus 0 is -10. 4 minus 0 is 4. And then when we simplify this, we still are going to end up getting -5/2 for our steepness of our line. Again, I want to show you both methods, rise over run, or maybe your teacher wants you to utilize slope formula. So I want you to know how to plug it into that formula as well. Now let's get into our equation of slope-intercept form. So we have y equals, our steepness was -5/2, which is our m. So we plug that in where m is. X is there. And then we have a plus b, which would be a plus 0. Well, you adding 0 at the end isn't going to change anything. So just drop the plus 0, and our final equation is y equals -5/2 x. So if you don't notice a number tacked on at the very end, you should know that your line is running through the origin, meaning that the plus 0 isn't necessary. Now let's take a look at another one that you need to be on the lookout for, because this is one of those special cases that might screw students up. For our third one, we need to first check to see where does it run through the y-axis. But you're going to notice for this particular line, it doesn't even go through the y-axis at all, which means we don't have a b. So again, this is one of those special cases you need to be on the lookout for, because you're going to see it in class at some point. So we don't have a b for this. So I'm just going to skip this part, and let's go ahead and calculate, well, what's the steepness of this line, or what is the slope? So let's go ahead and pick 2 points. I'm just going to pick this one here, and let's do this one down here. Let's calculate the rise and the run. So how do I go from one point to the other point? Be careful, because we're rising by 3s now. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. But you're going to notice that we're already at our other point. There's no run to this at all. So rise over run is done. We have m equals 27 over 0. Well, if you did 27 over 0 on the calculator, you're not going to get 0 back. It actually gives you an error. It's undefined. This line is incredibly steep. Too steep that we label the slope as undefined. So please don't put this as an answer. If you put m equals 0, you're saying this line has no steepness to it at all, which is completely inaccurate. So your slope for this, you actually have to write m equals undefined, or if you want to abbreviate it, you just need to make sure that you write undefined, not 0. So let's make sure that we still get undefined back with the slope formula. So let's write down our order pairs. This was -15, -6, and this one up here is -15, 21. I'm going to label this one down here x1, y1, just to show you that it doesn't matter, and this is x2, y2. So let's plug it into slope formula. We get m equals y2 was 21 minus y1, which was -6, all over x2, -15, minus x1, which is -15. We're subtracting a negative in top and bottom, so that's going to turn to addition for all of these. And we're going to get m equals 27 over 0, once again giving us that undefined. So let's go ahead and get rid of all that and write m equals undefined. Now, the only issue with this, when you're actually trying to put it into slope-intercept form and getting that equation of a line, well, it's kind of challenging to do that when you don't have a slope because it's undefined and it never crossed the y-axis, so you don't have a y-intercept or a b. So what do you actually do in this case? We need to figure out, well, what does it actually have in common here? And you're going to notice that on this line, they all share the same x-coordinate, which is -15. So this is an equation that's going to look completely different from all the other ones. It's not going to be y equals, it's going to be x equals the number that they have in common, or the coordinate they have in common, which is x equals -15. This is the equation of this line in particular, which is why I labeled this as a special case. Now let's take a look at one more special case before we get to the practice session, where you try to get the equation of a line for 4 lines on your own. For our next special case, we're going to start out the same exact way. We want to figure out, where does this cross the y-axis? And in this case, it is crossing at +2, which is going to be our b. So let's go ahead and label that b equals 2. Now let's calculate the m, or our slope, or how steep this line actually is. So let's pick 2 points that we easily know the coordinates to. So let's say we pick this one here, and then let's just use 0, 2, because it's already there. But you're going to notice that there's no rise to this. I don't have to go up or down vertically to go from one point to the other. So our rise in this case is actually 0. We just need to run to the right once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and we're counting by 1, so it's 5. So for rise over run, we're going to get m equals, our rise was 0, our run was 5, and 0 divided by 5 is going to give us a steepness of 0, which makes sense. This line is completely flat horizontally from left to right. There's no incline to this whatsoever. Now let's make sure that we get the same thing back with slope formula. So our order pairs in this case were -5, 2, and 0, 2. Now let's plug it into slope formula. So we just need to make sure we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have m equals y2 is 2, minus y1, which is 2, all over x2 is 0, minus x1, which is -5. You're subtracting a negative in the denominator, that's definitely going to be addition, and you get m equals 0 over 5, which you still get 0 back for your steepness. In this case, there's no incline whatsoever. So now what changes here for slope-intercept form is you have y equals 0 times x. Well, 0 times anything is just 0. So this part actually completely disappears, and you're going to end up getting for your equation y equals whatever your b is, y equals 2, because your 0 makes that x disappear. So whenever you see y equals a number, you know that there's no incline to this line that you're working with at all. So it's y equals 2 for the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Now let's make our way over to the practice session to see if you can find the equation of a line of 4 different lines all on your own. For the practice session, I encourage you to pause the video, see if you can find the y-intercept for all 4 of these lines, followed by the slope or the steepness of the line for each one of them, and then finally see if you can get it in slope-intercept form to get the equation of each one of these lines. So I'm assuming at this point you've tried them all out. Now let's go ahead and run through the answers. I'm going to start with the special cases ones just because they take less time, and then we'll focus on the positive and negative one. So let's go ahead and tackle the orange one first. I notice that this one is completely vertical, meaning that our slope is too steep that our slope's actually going to give us undefined, regardless if we did rise over run or slope formula. And it also doesn't run through the y-axis at all, meaning that we don't have a b or a y-intercept. So this is one of those cases that the only thing that this line has in common with each other is they all share the same x-coordinate. In this case is positive 18. So we don't have a b. Our slope here is undefined. So regardless of which method you did, you would get undefined back. So we can't put this in slope-intercept form. Instead, we have an equation that looks completely different from all the other ones. And you should have gotten x equals positive 18 for the orange one. So if you got that, very, very nice job. Now let's take a look at the other special case, which is the green one. So I'm going to change colors here. Let's make that green. And this one actually has a y-intercept or a b. It is crossing at -6. So we have a b of -6, but we do know with horizontal lines, just like we did in the previous example, there's no steepness to this line. There's no incline to it whatsoever. So our slope, regardless if you did rise over run or slope formula, you would get 0 back. So we don't leave our equation as y equals 0x minus 6. We just remove that 0x, and our final answer should be y equals -6 for the second special case. So if you're 2 for 2 right now, very, very nice job. Now let's go ahead and tackle the purple one, which is going to be our positive slope. So if you didn't get a positive one for your purple slope, I would probably look at that again before I run through this. So let's change colors once again. I notice that it is running through the origin, which means b is going to be 0. Then we need to figure out, well, what is our slope or our steepness? So we need to pick another order pair. I'm just going to use 0, 0 because it's easy to work with. And let's also pick this one right here, which is going to be 4, 8. So our rise over run, we are rising 2, 4, 6, 8. So our rise is 8. And then we are running 2, 4. So when we plug this in for rise over run, that's m equals 8 over 4. Well, 8 over 4, those are both divisible by 4. We end up getting m is equal to 2 for our final answer. Now let's make sure that we get the same thing back for slope formula. So this was 0, 0. We'll label this x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, it doesn't matter as long as you don't intermix them. x1 should not be with y2. And let's plug that into slope formula. We get m equals y2 is 8 minus y1, which is 0, over x2 is 4 minus x1, which is 0. We get m equals 8 over 4, and regardless, we still get 2 back for our slope. So let's plug this into our equation of a line slope-intercept form. We get y equals mx, or 2x, and then we just don't tack on that plus 0 because adding plus 0 at the very end isn't going to change anything. So our equation for the purple one is y equals 2x. And then finally, let's take a look at the last one. Hopefully you are 3 for 3 right now. And let's change the color one more time here to yellow. It is crossing the y-axis at -2, which is going to be our b. We then want to pick another order pair. I'm just going to use 0, -2 for this one. I'm going to change the color though so you can actually see that. So that's going to be 0, -2. And then we have another point. Let's pick this one right here, and we'll change it again so you can see the order pair. That's going to be -8, 6. Let's calculate our rise and our run. So our vertical change, we are dropping to 4, 6, 8. So that's going to be -8. And then we are running 2 to the right, 4, 6, 8 in the positive direction. So for this, that's going to be m equals, your rise was -8 all over +8. Well, 8 divided by 8 is going to give us 1. We just want to make sure that it's -1. And then for our slope formula, let's write x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll say this one is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. Let's plug it into slope formula. M equals y2 is -2 minus y1, which is 6, all over x2 is 0 minus -8. Subtracting a negative in the denominator, that turns to addition. We end up getting m equals -2 minus 6. That's going to give us -8. 0 plus 8 gives us +8. Well, -8 divided by 8 still gives us that slope or decline of -1 for our slope or steepness. And now let's go ahead and plug it into slope-intercept form. We get y equals -1x, or just -x, minus 2 for our last equation of a line. Hopefully you went 4 for 4 in the practice problems. If you did, very, very nice job. I hope this video helped you out with finding the equation of a line, specifically when you're working with a graph. And if it did, leave a like on the video, comment any other topics you want to see in the future, subscribe, make sure to turn on that bell for post notifications, and we'll see you in the next one with some more mathematics. Again, thank you for taking the time to watch if you watched this far, and we'll see you soon.